Hello, welcome to ME 510, Economics and Policy of Engineered Energy Systems. This presentation is part one of a three-part module on coal, the economics, policy, and markets. We'll start our discussion on coal looking at consumption around the world. Most of the slides here are taken from the International Energy Agency's The Global Value of Coal report. This report is from 2014, so some of the information may be dated given the rapid changes in the coal markets in recent years, but it just gives us an idea of what the coal market looks like. So if you look at coal consumption since 1970, it's actually been increasing significantly since then. It's more than doubled from 1970 to 2011, although we have seen some very rapid declines again in recent years. And the reason coal is so useful is because it's a very good way of providing secure, low cost, and reliable electricity. And these things are important in order to contribute to economic growth, job creation, higher personal income and wealth. Some of the global challenges that are relevant in this context are again that we do have a significant population that lives on less than $2 a day. A significant amount of that population also has limited access to electricity. A non insignificant number of people have no electricity at all. And so when we start thinking about moving towards cleaner forms of electricity or energy, we can't necessarily forget the billions of people that have no access to electricity and could still benefit from a low cost electricity source. And so if you look at electricity consumption per capita, this states the problem in a different way, but the contrast is even greater. You can see here that in terms of different countries, if you start from Ethiopia, a significant population there consumes less than 40 kilowatt hours per person. And as you move to the Euro area and other more developed places, you see that we have a jump in several orders of magnitude in terms of electricity consumption per capita. India, a specific example, is a very populous country. You can see again here, significant amount of people, equal to the population of US and Germany, have no electricity at all. Some have no refrigeration, and some cook with wood or dung. So these are significant portions of the global population that can benefit even from a relatively dirty fuel like coal. If you look at some of our global challenges again, gross domestic product, we need to increase gross domestic product. Electricity generation is important. Energy demand is growing. We're targeting a world population of about 9 billion people. Um, but we want to do all of this while reducing greenhouse gases. And depending on which report you read or which study you follow, you'll find that the targets vary. Here we have IEA saying that we need 80% reduction by 2050. If you look at this on a per capita million BTU basis and per person basis, what you see here, again, the trends from 1991 to 2008 are that our per capita energy use has been increasing, not quite doubled, but since 1991 to 2008, increased significantly. And the gross domestic product has been increasing as well. Remember again that we discussed last week, the last first module, that the cost share of energy appears to have a smaller fraction of gross domestic product over time. One resource that I would encourage you to click on and explore is the Population Pyramid, populationpyramid.net. It essentially shows pyramids for different countries and their populations. You'll find some countries are aging, and so they're top heavy. Some countries have a significant population of young people, and And so it's interesting to look at to compare different countries in that regard. This figure here just shows the number of people under age 15 in terms of millions, and you can see India and China leading the way, and other countries lagging behind in terms of their young population. So to put some numbers in perspective, almost 1/4 of the world's population now has access to the internet, so that's something we can celebrate. This number is probably much greater at this point, and it's increasing rapidly. Global subscriptions to mobile cellular services, so the people who have access to a cell phone, over 70%. This is a revolution in a way. The global television market has 1.2 billion households with at least one television. So the television was a revolution at its time, but as you can see, it's been dwarfed by the communication revolution of cell phones and the internet. We're still talking about global challenges. So we are seeing that between 1980 and 2007, electricity from coal has still been going up. Steel production, which uses a significant amount of energy, has also been increasing, particularly in countries that are trying to build new infrastructure. Electricity use per person, as we improve our livelihoods around the world, is increasing. Coal consumption, a big portion of where that energy is coming from, has been increasing as well. And the good news is that real gross domestic product per person has been increasing along the lines of this. Um, One thing to look into is that coal, as I already mentioned, has been a dominant source of energy, particularly in the power sector. Here you can see the global electricity mix, and coal leading the way, followed by gas, nuclear, and hydro. Um, Depending on the policies that global nations adopt in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and fuel incentives, you can see that the increase in coal is expected to increase regardless, but it could be more or less depending on what the policies are. Based on current policies, coal consumption would double by 2035. However, an encouraging fact is that clean sources of energy, such as wind, are expected to increase at a much faster rate, depending on whether you have current policies or new policies, but it will still be only a fraction of the coal consumption. If you look at this in more detail, again, these are policies that are described in the International Energy Administration report that are provided as part of the readings for this uh, course. Um, what this chart is trying to show are different scenarios where we look at incentives or policies that governments can take in order to incentivize different types of greenhouse gas reductions. The baseline here, current policies, you can see an increase in several different fuels, particularly coal. We already talked about the doubling of coal if there's nothing being done. You can see natural gas and hydro increasing as well, and wind power increasing. However, if nations were to adopt green incentives um, with and without uh, carbon capture and sequestration, or using high nuclear use, or focusing mostly on renewables, you can see what that impact would have. Um, the blue last scenario here, blue with high renewable use, for example, would phase out almost all coal by 2050. There would be coal using carbon capture sequestration as well, but that wouldn't be a major factor because of its cost, and we'll talk about that at a later point. But what you can see here is that, according to the IEA, there are scenarios that can result in significant changes in our global electricity mix. And I encourage you to read about what those policies look like in the reading. Now, why do we care so much about electricity? Well, electricity is both a cause and an indicator of human development. So the United Nations Human Development Index keeps track of the electricity use per capita, shown here, and you can see that countries that are considered advanced all have a higher electricity use per capita. And that also translates into better life expectancy, educational attainment, and income. That concludes part one of this module. We'll now move on to part two.